I don't even know where to start with this conversation with Dustin. I thoroughly enjoyed it and was also incredibly surprised by the fact that I felt like we had stuff in common. How do I have anything in common with an American white guy who is all buff and shit? Like, I'm not really sure. But I'm so happy we got to talk, and he's so kind with his words, and he's been through a lot. We cover so many different things. With that, I do have to put another trigger warning due to self-harm and earlier mentions of abuse. It doesn't go into detail. However, please, if you aren't in a good place right now and feel like this could be triggering, please leave this for another time. But I do thank him so much for being honest and open about his life, how he goes from identifying as being asexual and aromantic to finding himself in a relationship where they're 4,000 miles apart. But she's obviously worth it, which is incredibly cool to see play out. So enjoy it. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, I'm all ears. Just keep it kind. All right. MSN crowd. Do you remember the ASL?
I do remember the ASL.
I believe that means something completely different now. However,
yeah, it means American Sign Language now. But when people talk about ASL, I'm usually like 36, America, and then I feel like the oldest person on earth. Like that one GIF of Matt Damon where he just ages really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's how it feels every time.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But yeah, I am a 36-year-old cisgender male, and I am currently in Georgia, but I haven't been in one city longer than a week in 12 years because of travel for my work. So I'm a drifter. I was born and raised in Georgia. I consider California home, and now I spend half my time in the UK. So good luck figuring that out.
Love it. So with that as well is also asking name, sexual preference, relationship status.
Well, my name is Dustin DeRoe, and I'm heterosexual and very much taken.
Very much taken. I love that.
So very much, yes.
Very much taken. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't spoken before, not really, other than a passing, oh, this food in ethos is really nice conversation. Yeah. And the fact that you were having to then do an epic journey the next day or the day after.
Yeah, it was the day. It was Monday when I left, and I think our ethos thing was Sunday morning.
Yeah,
or was it Saturday
everything
morning?
Always starts on a Monday.
Yeah.
With that, as with every conversation, I'm jumping in straight away. Mm-hmm. Because why kick the can down the road? You're in a relationship. You're actually in a relationship with someone in the UK.
Yes, that's the reason that I spend like half of my time over there now. We kind of met on Instagram back in November. We work in the same industry, so we were kind of colleagues, and she had heard of I'm a sports announcer and like on-screen host some things, and so she had heard of me because we both work in obstacle racing, and she followed me on Instagram early on, and I didn't initially follow her back.
Oof.
And well, because I didn't know her.
Okay.
And as terrible as, or as douchey and egotistical as this is going to sound, there were just a lot of random strangers that were following my Instagram because I had developed a sizable following on TikTok. I think I had like 60,000 at that point. So random folk weren't uncommon, and her profile was private, so I couldn't really see much about her. But she responded to a meme that I shared on my story that just said, "What's the opposite of a Debbie Downer? A Bethamphetamine." And yeah, she just laughed, reacted, and then I was just like, oh wow, she actually seems cute. And I followed her, which is a super rare thing for me because, as we will discuss, I very, very, very rarely, almost impossibly, feel any kind of attraction toward anyone whatsoever. I have identified as aromantic and asexual for the entirety of my adult life.
Right.
And
right.
yeah, which makes being like an on-air entertainer hilarious because when you're on stage, people will find you more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends would always get mad at me and be like, dude, you're ignoring all the things I would kill for. And I'm just like, you can have them. I'm not bothered, not interested.
Yeah.
And she and I started talking that day, and the conversation really kicked off because of Big Hero 6. And I ended up asking her out a few hours later, but I was on the way to Turkey. And so I always joke that I spent the next week hitting on her through 5 countries because because I asked her out when I was in Canada for a layover. Then we just kept talking through Germany, Turkey, Qatar, and back to the United States. And we kind of like fell out a little just because not a whole lot of reasons to talk or to stay like, really engaged early on. But we would kind of like go in and out, and then in March just really, really hit it off. Talking incessantly morning to night. And we had become the center of each other's worlds at this time.
Okay.
And after a certain number of 6-hour phone calls, we decided, let's just split the cost of a ticket and bring me to the UK. And so we did. And
Holy
I came to
shit
the
balls.
UK.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you didn't know this?
No, I fucking didn't.
All right. uh, yeah, so I came to the UK for a 16-day first date. And it was intense. We basically went through like relationship boot camp. We had major highs, major lows,
Mm.
almost broke up, and learned a lot about each other and how we can more effectively communicate together in order to continue moving forward. And I'm just really glad that we got the bad stuff sorted before I left, because I don't think that we would have made it if we had left on a bad note. And
Wow.
she means the absolute world to me. So I'm always thrilled to put in whatever kind of work I can to make sure that we do have a safe, happy, and healthy relationship.
Mm.
And then came back again. That's where I met you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So much to digest, so many questions I have, so many like, oh shit. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Let me like juggle my thoughts here. I'm probably going to end up cutting a whole moment here just while I try and work the fuck out my questions.
Yeah, no worries. I have a very interesting or unique history, so I have a feeling this is going to happen more than once.
Yeah. Because you mentioned, we'll get into it about the asexual, aromantic thing. And I think there's going to be a few people that don't know what that means. I even found myself today having to Google something that someone identified as, because I'm still kind of trying to retain all the different ways that people describe their sexuality, their ways about them, how they live their life. And
Yeah.
I'm part of the LGBTQI plus community. But even I struggle to understand, but feel this intense pressure to understand and know everything and be very knowledgeable about all the things that keep changing.
It's
So,
almost impossible to keep up
yeah,
with all of it. Like no matter how inclusive or how much effort you try to put toward it, it's evolving faster than we can learn about it, which is
yeah,
both cool and also super stressful, because we want to be respectful, but
yeah.
this is hard.
So let's go to that then, because I think
Okay.
that to set the scene of what that means for you moving forward. So chronologically, you have for most of your adult life said, this is how I identify: asexual, aromantic. I'm taking a
I just
stab at that. What that means is that you don't feel sexual attraction or romantic attraction to anyone.
pretty much. Like it can happen, but it's super, super, super rare. And it can come about because of just being naturally born that way, and there's nothing wrong with it, or it can be a hormonal imbalance, or it can be trauma related. I personally believe that mine was trauma related because I was raised in a hyper religious family, like borderline cult stuff. And sex was demonized to the highest degree. So much so that when I was 13, going through puberty and starting to develop these urges, I started having nightmares that I had caused the apocalypse by having sex and disappointing God.
You
And
had
those
sex at
nightmares,
13.
no, 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 no,
Oh.
no, no, no. I didn't even get
Okay.
my first kiss until I was almost 21.
Right, right, right. Okay.
No, 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 no. I was just saying I was having the
Yeah.
nightmares about the urges,
Oh, right.
and so like I kept a candle in my room, and I would have like a fork in the flame. So whenever I had sexual thoughts, I would just push the hot metal into my calf to try to train myself out of it, because they had told me that it was like the most sinful and awful feelings you could have. And so I already started off not having a healthy relationship with the idea of sex. And then in high school, I was, well, in middle and high school, I was super bullied, put down, constantly told, dude, you need to marry the first girl who pays attention to you because you're not going to get a lot. And yeah, little did they
Okay.
know it ended up like modeling later, but
Glow up. Literally, it's like
yeah.
glow up.
I wish I actually had a picture to show you. Like I'll send you one on
Oh,
Instagram. You'll laugh.
yes.
Uh, but yeah, my first actual sexual experience was when I was almost 21, and it was a woman that I had started dating, and she told me she didn't want to waste time training a virgin, so she wanted me to read a bunch of books and study first, and so she took me to Barnes and Noble, popular bookstore over here, and I got nervous and kind of shameful and said, I don't want to be here. And she just kind of turned around and yelled to the whole store, "Hey, everyone, we're here to buy sex books because my boyfriend's a virgin and I don't want him to suck at it." And then turned back to me and goes, "See, no one cares." So I experienced my very first panic attack in life and ran out of the store, and I ordered the books online, and she made me read them in front of her and would take them periodically and like quiz me as if I was actually getting ready for an exam.
Mm.
So I already had a very negative foundation, and then negative experiences built upon that. And so I had like no positive associations with sex, and I mean, I
Or
very rarely.
relationships.
Oh yeah, oh like I my I yeah, I had two girlfriends in my early 20s, and then I was single for 9 years.
Mm.
And yeah, in that time, like I would go on dates, and it seemed like a cyclical pattern. Like every 2 years, I would
Mm.
just go through a cycle of being perfectly happy and content being alone and not, you know, touching anybody. Or and then eventually, because there is like such a societal pressure on men to be sex crazed,
Mm-hmm.
which is stupid. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People expect so much of it that it, even if you are at peace with it, every so often you're gonna feel like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would start to be like, okay, well, maybe these things I am feeling, because I could feel platonic affection for people, no problem.
Mm.
I have a lot of friends who I absolutely adore. And after a while, it starts to be like, maybe, okay, maybe this is romantic attraction. Maybe this is just isn't what I think it is. And like I would go on like a few, I would go on like one, two, maybe three dates a year, and never really felt anything. And then I got into a relationship at the beginning of the pandemic, and she was great, wonderful person, healthiest relationship that I've had. And we had problems, but most of them stemmed from we were on different life paths, and that's
Mm.
ultimately why we split up. It wasn't a bad "I hate you" kind of breakup. It was just our lives don't fit together, and there's no healthy way for us to pursue this. So best of luck. See you later. And after that, I was just so completely, totally, and entirely at peace with, okay, yeah, yeah, I'm a loner. This is what I do. And given my travel schedule and my habit of being involved with so many different charity events and causes, and being of service anywhere that I can,
Mm.
I'm just going to consider myself like a monk without a religion. I don't need a relationship, and I'm at peace with that. Then I met my current partner, and now I'm completely head over heels for her, and I feel a kind of peace and safety with her that I've never experienced in my life. And even aside from the religious stuff, I had a lot of other traumas, both from my family and other people around me when I was a kid, and they started so early that one of the big plaguing thoughts through my life has always been, I will never know the person I would have become beyond the
Mm-hmm.
trauma because it happened before I was developing memories. And since being with her, there has been so much. I have nightmares almost every night,
Mm.
have my entire life, and they are so bad that I hate sleeping. I'm scared to go to sleep and I dread it. And psychiatrists have like put me on medication to try to treat that, but it's never worked for more than one night at a time, and then I need like a month off. So basically I just have to plan the one night a month that I get a good night's sleep, and that's when the meds work. But um during that 16-day first date, I only had 3, and it was the most nights I've had in my entire life without nightmares.
Mm.
And yeah, it's like she's unlocked a whole new set of personality traits. Like with her, yeah, absolutely. I am so romantically attracted to her. I absolutely adore her. She is my favorite person to ever exist. And even sexual, I'm like, oh, gee, I didn't know I could have these feelings. That's cool. Wow. Like, and then she just comes like, I thought you were asexual. Like, I thought so too, but all right. And no, things are great. I absolutely adore everything about the experience of dating her. And even my therapist pointed out, well, because my current partner is in school to become a therapist. And so when there are things like that where I'm acting outside of my norm
Mm.
or in ways that there's a Taylor Tomlinson bit where she says that like dating in your 40s is funny because people will still say things like, I've never felt this way before. Sir, you're 43. You should have felt everything already. And
Yep.
so I'm very aware that me being 36, me saying, no, I've actually never felt like this before, it sounds like an exaggeration. It sounds like I'm downplaying the positive parts of my past relationships or something, but it is so truly genuine. Like I am constantly finding out new things about myself because this is the first time in my 36 years that I've actually felt safe enough to explore those. And I can't even explain specifically what it is about her and our relationship that made those walls come down. But it's it's been really fun to see. And I talked to my therapist about it because yeah, she understandably wanted to explore those things and had some concerns related to them. And he was just like, oh no, 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 no. This is probably the healthiest thing you've ever done. I've heard about this before, and what you were experiencing is called healing. And and then when he said like I started crying because like just
Mm.
I it's nice to get that kind of validation about positive progress and knowing that I'm not lying to myself from a
Mm.
professional who I do trust and respect.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, wow. What you're talking about is actually incredibly relatable for me. I'm
Really?
yet to come across anybody that has experienced that or is able to say, I'm 38 and a half now, 38 and a half, and I'm yet to have that experience. I've had one moment in time which spanned all of like, I don't know, less than 10 minutes. Yeah. In the 38 years, a moment in time of less than 10 minutes where I felt something that I have never felt before. And then I fell asleep. I've never come across another person, which makes it feel incredibly lonely. I don't know if you've ever felt that. Is that not
Yes.
having anybody that's going, oh my God, that's actually really relatable?
Yeah,
Because I'm surrounded
absolutely.
by people that are couples that have had multiple relationships, know what it's like to live with someone, knows what it's like to argue about the fact that you didn't buy the milk on the way home, and like all the domestic stuff, because they're all like, oh well, wait, you won't like it when you, and like, but I don't know, I don't have the privilege of being able to moan or complain about those things because I'm 38 and I've never been in love, not really. I've never felt safe enough in a relationship. I've never felt like I could be vulnerable. I've never been able to truly embrace a relationship and know confidently that they are into me as much as I am into them.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that
very
is an
strange.
incredibly it's
Nice
an
to meet you.
isolating experience. Yeah, likewise. Oh my God. Like I knew I liked you just like as a pal and a person, but now, oh my God. Like, oh,
Mm.
bonding. And it's being documented to make it even better. But yeah, that is such an isolating thing.
Mm.
And especially because like after a while, people just start associating you with being single. Like I got ordained ages ago to officiate my friends' weddings.
Mm.
And I have officiated like a couple dozen weddings, or maybe like 16, 17, whatever. And when people invite me to their wedding, and since I'm on the road so much, they just call instead of sending an actual invitation, because they don't know what address to send it to. But they usually call and be like, hey, you don't need a +1, do you? And it's like, well, no, but it would have been nice to have the option. I mean, still, I wouldn't bring one, but you're a dick.
Yep. Yeah, I
And
don't even get the question of when are you getting married or anything. No one assumes that that's happening. No one is like, I am literally the perpetual single friend. I'm going to a wedding actually for one of my bestest friends in September. I'm taking a friend because my +1 is empty. It would be my friend or it would be my twin who is married.
yeah.
So just there is an incredible loneliness that I don't think people really understand. And I don't know if you feel the same way or have experienced it, but they trivialize it and kind of like swat it away like it's a really non-issue, when it's like, well, you don't know what it's like to constantly go home to no one,
Yeah.
I know what it's like, what it's like to miss someone, but
Mhm.
I don't know what that's like to miss somebody.
Yeah, that that is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And like for the most part, I was always at peace with being alone, but I wanted these things. It's just I didn't feel them for anyone. And it was a super frustrating thing because I have known some incredible women. I have known women who are strong, powerful, brilliant, intelligent,
Mm.
and by all conventional standards, absolutely gorgeous. And I felt nothing
Mm.
for them. And I mean, other than strong friendship, I don't want to sound like a misogynist douche,
Yeah.
but but yeah, it wasn't until my current partner where it actually got unlocked. But um, one of the big things is that I did want it so much, but I genuinely 1000% thought that I would never be able to have it. I just thought that
Mm.
I didn't have, I thought I had desire, but no capability.
Mm-hmm.
And so my routine that I go through when I'm writing the weddings that I officiate, um, or it used to be anyway, I would go to the rehearsal dinner, talk to the bride and groom, learn about them, see how they interact. And then I would go back to my hotel or wherever I'm staying.
Mm.
I would get red wine, watch Moulin Rouge, and drink wine and watch Moulin Rouge until I was good and sad. And then I would write the wedding that I'll never have and give it to them.
Oh, that's
And
tragically painful.
I agree. But like now that I've got someone I actually like see a future with, I'm gonna be like, oh, I can't give my ideas away anymore. All right.
I'm literally putting that in the hashtag tragically painful. That, and I can
Relatable. But
relate. Yeah.
well, the other big thing was I can't remember if we talked about this in person or not, but I got bitten by a rattlesnake in 2018.
Nope.
And okay, well, that's why there's a chunk missing out of my hand and a bunch of scars running down my
Okay.
arm
Okay.
there. Um, I'll tell you that story when we're not recording, but because it takes a while and I don't want to
Okay.
bore your listeners. But yeah, I
Is
got
there a
bitten when I was at
TikTok we
work.
could direct them to?
Actually, yeah, yeah, I have shared these stories on a lot of TikToks.
I will do that.
Um,
We'll just
uh,
direct everybody to those TikToks when it comes out.
okay, that's perfect. Yeah, just search Dustin DeRoe rattlesnake on TikTok and the videos will come up. But um I have a long background working with wildlife and with rattlesnakes, especially because I grew up on farms. My family did wildlife rescue and rehab. My grandfather was a veterinarian. My dad was one of those guys that catches rattlesnakes to be milked for antivenom.
Wow.
And my dad was not a good man, so he did that for a while. Then he taught his 7-year-old son to do it instead. So dad was a monster. I was the world's coolest 7-year-old. Life's a balance. And and apparently when I tell tragic stories, I become Deadpool halfway through. But
I like it. I like it. Yeah.
me too. But the because of my background, I always got thrown into being the wildlife guy wherever I worked.
Mm.
And I've relocated thousands of snakes. I've had to chase deer out of a festival area or just whatever critter happens to show up. And so it got loose during a relocation and bit me when I was at work. And because of my background, every new symptom that would show up was basically a countdown for me for how much longer I had left to live.
Mm.
And once I started to get lightheaded and feel like I wanted to go to sleep, I had a moment of, oh shit, this might actually be it. I might be checking out today because the ambulance isn't even here yet. And in that moment, I thought about all of like the stories and the TV and movies that you see where there is some kind of mortal wound, and then they call the person they love to either tell them you love them or goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I didn't have anyone to call.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have that kind of connection to lean on, and I didn't tell anyone that I was going to the hospital, that I was dying. Because, well, for rattlesnakes, it's important to keep your heart rate as low as possible, so that the venom doesn't get pushed through your system. So I knew that if I called someone, they would start freaking out and stress me out and potentially kill me.
Mm.
But also, if I did tell anyone I was going to the hospital, um, I was aware that I probably wouldn't have the energy to call them back later and let them know I was okay. And
Mm.
that felt like a very cruel thing to put on someone. So my first 36 hours in the hospital, for the first 24, we didn't know if I would survive. And for the first week and a half, we didn't know how I would get to keep my arm.
Mm.
But the only way to describe the feeling is that there was so much pressure building in my forearm that it felt like my skin was going to burst open while my bones were being crushed underneath.
Jesus.
And yeah, so that combined with knowing that I'm literally on death's door right now, and I had to go through that completely, entirely, 1000% alone. And I didn't have anyone to talk to or to tell them I love them. And like I called some friends after and told them that I love them, just because I was so bummed out that I didn't get to have that call before. And I mean, I do love my friends, but
Mm.
it I'm just very aware of the mindset I was in when I made those calls, and I know what I was looking for and
Mm-hmm.
didn't find it. So I've always wanted connection but couldn't feel it. And so yeah, when everyone else is having it, complaining about it, telling stories, and I'm just over here feeling like an alien who's experiencing Earth for the first time.
Yeah.
And, and I'm like, I can't relate to any of this. And I mean, I am neurodivergent. I have ADHD, and there's a strong chance I'm autistic. But so connecting with people is already hard for that. But then having a unique life experience and limited experience in the stuff that most people would consider standard baseline human stuff and adult
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And yeah, as you said, it can be super, super isolating and terrible. And the older you get, the more pressure you feel,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
stupid.
Is saying that like you didn't have anybody to like call. It's heartbreaking. That is really sad. That is fucking sad. But it's exactly why I have this thing that I'm like, for me, how long would it be before anybody would realize something is wrong? Because technically, I have a lodger. I do technically live alone, and I work from home and all that kind of stuff. So my morning post on Instagram stories is essentially me saying I woke up today.
Oh, I wish I didn't find that as relatable as I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I started doing that I don't know, 3 years ago.
I get that.
Yeah. How
That
long would it
that's
be before someone knew that I wasn't okay?
Oh, wait, we can cut this next part for time. But as you say that, all I can think is the conversations that we were having at the garden party where people were scared to check on you because you sleep naked.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, we, so
Hang on a
it
minute.
makes
Who was having that conversation? Was I part of
you.
that
So,
conversation?
yes, you were.
Oh.
Because someone said they wanted to check to see if you were awake, but they didn't want to go in there because they knew that you sleep in the nude. And
Oh, my
and
lodger. Right.
yeah, and you were just like, I don't sleep in the nude on top of the sheets with my ass in the air. You can knock. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, as you're saying that, and like not to laugh and like dilute the intensity of the
No,
feelings
no, no.
associated with all of that, but when you said you don't know how long it would be before you were found, I'm like, yeah, like, based on what I saw, like they'd be scared to check too. Like,
Yeah, it will be Ginger's job. Like everybody has always assigned it to Ginger. Like they would message Ginger, go, Jojo hasn't got up yet, or I don't think she's got up. I don't know what's happening because I'm very routine. I wake up
mhm,
incredibly early, not by choice. And so I'm already awake. So people hear me pottering around and stuff. But
mhm.
yeah, if I wasn't to wake up, they're like, so Ginger gets that job. I mean, Ginger's seen me naked anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, she gets that job to come up and see if I'm like alive.
Yeah,
But that is actually an odd, never told anybody that was what it was for, but that was what it was for, was because it was like, how, not that potentially that anybody would even think about it, but how would anybody know that I wasn't there when I don't have that significant other that you normally say good night to, you normally say good morning to, you're like, hey, who knows?
yeah,
And yeah, that is, it's an incredibly lonely and sad thought, but it's something that you kind of think about when you're perpetually alone.
yeah, absolutely. And I get it. Like that is so similar to how I've used social media.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like so many of my posts for a long time were essentially just proof of life because I was on the road so much and I didn't get to see people very often. And I'm already an introvert with social anxiety. So like I didn't want to be around a lot of people anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And
Stop being so relatable. Carry on.
most people have no idea my location at any given
Mm.
time, which that habit started because I used to be announcer for Spartan Race for like 7 years. I was their lead
Okay.
announcer in the US, and like I
Yeah.
wrote the manuals that all the other countries use for their
Mm.
start lines. And in that time, I had a good number of fans, followers, stalkers. Um,
I can
while I
imagine.
travel, like I very often like to just sleep in my car and or especially in my Jeep. Oh, I miss my Jeep. It got totaled last November,
Oof.
RIP, but it was so comfy. And I was perfectly happy just car camping on the road. And when people found out that I was car camping in a certain state, a few people would try to track down what parking lot I was sleeping in so that they would so that they could force me to stay at their house.
Mm.
And with so many people trying to track me down like that, it made
Mm.
me just more cautious. So I don't typically put my location online very much anymore, unless it's a
Mm.
place where I know that I won't be bothered. But yeah, yeah, like in during those times, especially, I would post things just to be like, yeah, man, if I died out here, like who knows? Because I would go to a lot of really remote places and do like
Mm.
wild camping and stuff. And yeah, if anything happened out there, there's no telling how long it would take to not only find me, identify me, find people that knew me, and like until recently, I'd never really had an emergency contact before. And I have my current partner set as my emergency contact because with us being 4,000 miles apart, I couldn't bear the thought of anything happening to me and her just wondering why I wasn't responding to her
Mm-hmm.
texts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and yeah, it's a shitty feeling.
Yeah.
And and oh my God, I feel so much closer to you. The and it really colors the way that you see social media.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's felt more like a responsibility than a fun thing.
Mm.
And yeah, like if I didn't post for a while, some people would reach out and be like, "Hey, you dead? You all right?" Because I mean, they also know that I'm depressed. You
Yeah.
haven't been posting any dark humor in a few days. You alive, bro? Yeah, I'm good.
Stop, bro. Fucking
Mm.
love it. Yeah.
Have you seen that one meme that just says, uh, "Hey, just doing a buddy check. You okay?" And they say, "Not really," and then they just respond, "Okay, just checking." That's it. That's how it feels when two depressed people are friends.
Yeah. To be
I'm like,
fair, like, yeah. When I say no, I'm not doing okay, I'm like, cool, just checking in, just making sure you're alive. That's great. Thanks. Bye.
yeah,
Although to be fair, I did message some friends the other day and I went, hey, we need to go for dinner because I need to have a breakdown, but I need to not do it at home and I need to not do it somewhere that we know. I just need to go somewhere completely separate and it's all going to be about me and I'm going to have a breakdown and Ginger was like, this is the most JoJo thing I've ever heard, scheduling a fucking breakdown. But again, it comes back to that thing that you don't have that person to immediately go to and seek comfort and be like, oh shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it's going to sound disingenuous eventually with all the times I'm going to end up saying, yeah, me too,
Mm-hmm.
in this conversation. But yeah, I have done that, and I have scheduled breakdowns, especially just like with a busy life. I don't always have time for a full-on panic attack in the middle of a show.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just be like, okay, I've got to get this out of my system later. So I'm going to go find a place that I can comfortably be sad and have my freak out, get it out of my system, and then carry on from there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, those scheduled breakdowns, they help. I mean,
Yeah.
it's shitty that we have to do that, but it's effective. And I love that through our similar experience, we ended up finding the same tactic of coping.
Mm.
Although you have more friends around than I typically do, which
Yeah.
didn't mean to sound as sad as it did.
No, I'm incredibly fortunate with working really hard to have a very small select few group of friends. Because when I was younger, I always looked at people enviously because I thought that you were supposed to have loads of friends and this like massive out life with loads of people and all of this stuff, and all these people doing all these things all the time and all this communication. And I actually don't have the brain for it or the bandwidth, the capacity. And I've worked incredibly hard over the last like 8-10 years to have the friendships I do. Myself and your partner have worked hard and on our friendship because we had a moment where things were to the point where that was it. We were going to call it a time.
Mhm.
But there's something where, because I don't have, not just because I don't have that other person, but it makes me incredibly appreciative of the select few that are in my life that are there for me to have that breakdown, to seek comfort and to work through things and grow as a person and get things wrong and do all the things it's almost like a pre-test or kind of like it's like pre-game to the game that's going to come,
Yeah.
like to the person that's going to be that person. Is I'm almost doing all these things with my friends in the build up to what could potentially be a relationship somewhere along down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there's something that's sticking in my brain for this whole conversation,
Okay.
which was, so enough about bringing myself into the conversation, which
I love having you in the conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You said that when you were younger, that you essentially you came up with your own conversion therapy.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
How to have that so ingrained, because that's not something you take lightly.
Mhm.
How do you move past that?
It was.
Did you, or have you, or is it only now?
No, I have. Because of my upbringing, religious and otherwise, I didn't have a full range of emotions. I only had anger or depression, and I couldn't feel empathy or compassion. And it wasn't until, and like, I had worked on it really hard, because when I was like 17, 18, I had finally made some genuine, real friends, one of whom is still my best friend to this day. And like, we're so close that I always say the fact that he and I never got married is all the proof I will ever need that being gay is not a choice, because we would have fucking chosen it so fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I finally had like good supportive people around me, and they weren't religious. And so I got to hear some conflicting viewpoints and grow and change and kind of break away. And I still classified myself as Christian until like my early 20s, until I was like 23, 24. And after that, just happy being spiritually agnostic. But on March 14th, 2012, there was this like I was building a Spartan race in Conyers, Georgia. I was at the Hampton Inn in the breakfast area. I wake up ungodly early most days, and I just happened to be the first one down there. It was probably like 6. I think that's when breakfast began for them. And there was a news station playing a story about a bus crash in Switzerland where um, 26 children had died.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it was about that, but it was like 25 years of empathy all unlocked at once. And suddenly I was just violently sobbing into my stupid fake eggs. And after that, it was like all of my emotions had finally been released. I don't know what it was about that story that made the walls come down like that, but I always identify March 14th as 2012 as the day that the Dustin everyone knows now was born. And I tend to celebrate that more than my actual birthday
Mm.
because I've never felt until recently, Jesus, I've never felt all that much connection to the guy who was born on October 31st. But I was very proud of the guy who was born on March 14th. So I called it my
Mm.
rebirth day and I would celebrate that. But now that I'm in this stage of growth and healing and I'm getting to actually learn about who I naturally could have been, and I'm having all of these new experiences, now I'm much more at peace with the guy
Yeah,
that was born on October 31st because now I finally get to meet him.
that's insane. Do you ever have moments of resentment, or trying to think of the negative words here? That'll be where my dyslexia comes in and memory recall. But do you ever have that kind of feeling towards the fact that you're because again going through the same kind of thing, 4 years, almost 4 years of therapy, and finding out the person that I'm kind of supposed to be,
Mhm.
but all of this other stuff that happened in between to make that really difficult, like what happened in the beginning to now, and having to unravel that and deal with it, and you're never going to stop processing that, I think.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel resentment or grief towards the fact that you never got to be that person in the beginning?
Yeah, that is 1000% what I felt my entire life.
Mm,
Because I never thought that I would get to know who I was.
mm,
I thought that that had been stolen from me. And the phrase I always used was, I mourned the person that I could have become. And that was really hard, which is why now, and I actually am getting to experience these things and learn about who I naturally could slash should have been were it not for the experiences that gave me the trauma. Um, it has been massively insightful and freeing and weird as hell.
mm,
It has been a lot to learn about and navigate because I thought that there were just certain truths about myself that would never waver.
mm-hmm,
And now that I'm in a safe and healthy enough place and I have such a wonderful partner, I find myself changing my mind
mm,
a lot about a lot of things. Like the really, really big one is that I never wanted kids.
mm-hmm,
Never. Um, that was actually why that was the big thing that made my last relationship end. She wanted kids, I didn't, and you can't compromise on that.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, so um, but with my current partner, she has a daughter who
mm-hmm,
I absolutely adore in the biggest way. And like I didn't know that I could love a kid this much.
mm,
And I mean, just like her mother, I didn't know that I could love a person this much. And and so I typically avoided going on dates with women that I knew had children because I thought that I could never be any kind of parental figure, could
mm.
never have any kind of connection with a kid. I thought that I would just, I don't know if you're a Terminator 2 fan, but I thought that I would just be like that one scene of Arnold Schwarzenegger just picking up the child by the back of the neck and looking at him quizzically. Um,
Yeah,
and but at the same time, like I thought that like best case scenario, I would be the way Sarah Connor described the Terminator, saying, all the men who have come and gone, this soulless machine is the only one who would actually protect him, will never come home drunk and hit him and all that stuff. And oh God, okay, I love Terminator 2. But one of the ways that I always describe how it was growing up without emotions is I relate to the character of the Terminator.
mm,
And especially at the end of the movie when he says, I know now why you cry, that it's something I can never do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I get super weepy at the end of that. But yeah, I never thought that I would be okay being with someone who has a kid, but now like I'm open-minded if she wanted another one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I I mean she's already an incredible mother, and if we ever did decide to do that, I would be perfectly happy to be a father, which is a
Mm.
wildly brand new experience. You are the only person on earth who has heard this so far other than her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and yeah, it's weird the things you find out about yourself. And I truly, deeply do hope that you have the chance to learn these things about yourself too, because
Yeah.
it's scary and it's hard, but it's also super cool. And the most important thing is to stay open-minded and not cling to the things you assumed were uh unchangeable
Mm.
about yourself. When you find someone who makes you feel safe enough to stop lying to yourself as much as anyone else.
Mm.
And yeah, it's been really cool.
That's that is a whole thing. And the thing is that what people won't see is your face, that every time you talk about her, it's a whole mood. It's a
Yeah,
whole
I
mood.
mean,
Giddy
you've seen the way I look at
schoolgirl.
her in person. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm head over heels for her. Like
Yeah. It shows.
absolutely.
It shows, and it shows in the way that you speak. And do you ever feel any pressure being a man? Essentially, you come across, anybody would say that you're quite masculine looking. You're very, you look strong. All this kind of like, oh man, fire, burn, tree, pretty.
Yeah.
Do you ever find there's pressure for you to setting, but I say, can you really set aside your history? But do you ever encounter pressure to actually act a certain way, regardless of how you are now, like exploring how you feel now, how you now feel?
I felt pressure in the past to
Mm,
be more sexual
mm,
than I was,
yeah.
than I wanted to be. I felt pressure to go on dates or to find people attractive. And I would try it. I would try to fake it, and it just never worked. But as far as like the standard, especially the more toxic sides of masculinity, where there's a lot of patriarchal pressure to really
Mm,
like behave in a certain very unhealthy way, I have thankfully always been free of that.
mm,
And I think a lot of it comes from the fact that I started martial arts when I was 3. I used to compete in the world championships. I was ranked top 5 on the planet, and I was a uh, bodybuilder, fitness. I ride and race motorcycles, and I have a lot of very traditionally masculine hobbies, interests, and background. But at the same
mm.
time, my first job was a dance teacher. I was a breakdancing instructor at a summer camp, and I toured with a ballet company. And I trained ballet too. I wasn't just breakdancing in the middle of Swan Lake. That would have been funny though. But
Could have been an interesting take on it. Yeah.
it actually could have, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I was in theater. I've never liked bullies. So if I
Hmm.
ever saw something that people were being needlessly cruel to someone else about, I would take on that personality trait, because if anyone's getting attacked, I want it to be the person who can fight back.
Mm,
Like I nicknamed it bigot baiting a long time ago. So that's where I developed a lot of my more flamboyant personality traits, and why you will very often see me with shirts that have rainbow unicorns on them,
mm,
or um, shirts in Arabic, or other things that people will typically um, use as a target for hate.
mm,
And I am fiercely protective of my LGBTQIA plus friends, and obviously the people I've never met too, just like the
mm.
entirety of the community, because I am a flamboyant straight guy, and I have to like I have to come out as straight in like every conversation, because people just assume gay. Like a woman came up to me and was like, "Can I ask you a personal question?" And I was just like, "Great." And she's like, "How did you know this is a daily thing?" Yeah. And that's where that's where I got my following on TikTok, because I
Mm.
made one stupid video where I was complaining about my For You page and how the algorithm was like, half of my For You page is nothing but mentally unstable, autistic lesbians who are either really good with medieval weaponry or just crazy muscular, but that's half my friends. So good job, TikTok. You nailed that one. And the other is just a bunch of cishet men I have nothing in common with, and I don't know what they're saying. It's kind of like TikTok is saying, hey, man, you know, you're a cishet guy too. You might want to butch it up a little. No, I love being a sparkle straight. I will gladly wear an evening gown to the firing range, deadlift an F-250, and then steal your wife. Don't test me, TikTok.
Love it.
And
Love it.
people latched onto the phrase sparkle straight, which was supposed to be a one-off. And like, I don't like labels because for me personally, I find them confining and like it slows down the natural evolution of growing into who you could become.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to demean anyone for loving them. It's just not personally my thing. So the fact that I created one is ironic and frustrating at times, but it's been really cool to see a lot of other hetero men who routinely have to come out as straight, and like so many of us were adopted by the queer communities and shown our first real sense of understanding and community. And I think that my favorite way it was ever put was, Dustin, you're not straight, you just happen to be heterosexual. But yeah, it's thankfully always been free of the patriarchal pressure, because and people have attempted hate crimes on me before, and they just ended funny. I've got more black belts in an Amish menswear store. Like, it did not go well for them.
Fucking black belts and Amish. That's brilliant.
Well, I was announcing at the International Pole Dance Convention a few days ago, and there was a report of a guy harassing women in the parking lot. And I go out there to hunt this guy down. And all I could think was looking down at my shirt, which it says in the Barbie font in like bright pink glitter, barbarian, but like all glitter and so Barbie. And all I could think was, if this guy's last memory before a coma is just a large man with a bunch of glitter coming toward him, that's funny. That I hope someone films this. Didn't find him. We got security involved and had them patrolling the parking lot, and he just never came back around. So good. The story is not going to be more interesting because I didn't get to fight anybody while wearing glitter, but would have been funny.
That would have been a TikTok sensation.
Oh,
and then about 2 weeks later, an Instagram sensation. So we all know it.
So accurate. So accurate.
We all know it. I do wonder though, because as you say, with like labels and stuff, you're not really into labels because you are evolving. Like everybody evolves, and I think that there's safety in sticking to a label. There's safety in putting yourself in a box because you know the boundaries, you know where you're at, and what have you. But then when it comes time for that evolution, it can actually be the sticking point in moving forward. Yeah. Have you experienced, because you know the perpetual like singledom and kind of feeling like this is just the way of life and what have you, and people seeing you that way, to then have this relationship now where you're talking in a way that's such like in awe and full of love and happiness and open communication and all these things that people need within a relationship, I believe. Have you come up against it where people have not been able to evolve with you, so they don't understand? Have you had any of that kind of friction because of this? Because people will also be comfortable with the box that you have.
Yeah, and the box that they put you in, especially. The assumptions that they make and the wild ways in which they will act as though you have personally betrayed them by not living up to the ideals that they never told you that you were being held to. I have not run into that. I mean, like, I've had people who were like shocked and confused at all of this, but oh wow, actually the event that I just worked was the first time that I've actually gotten to see my friends in person since she and I got together, and they were elated. They were like, weird, unexpected, but I've also never seen you this happy, so rock on. And And I mean, like she's the background on my phone. And oh my God, this one person that I knew, I don't know if you, this is such a stupid thing to say. I don't know if you saw the TikTok or not, but um she was like yelling compliments and was like, Dustin, you're looking great. You're looking so handsome. If I weren't getting married into, I didn't even let her finish the sentence. I never slowed down. I just held my phone up and was like, wouldn't matter anyway, and just kept walking and like never even made eye contact. And I was like, that was probably aggressive. I think she was kidding anyway, but I mean, at least she knows I'm loyal. But
Yeah, that's
um,
true.
so I haven't really, honestly, more than anything, if someone did have a problem with it, I am perfectly fine with that person getting the hell out of my life.
Mm,
And if they aren't going to be happy with me or for me, then they're not someone I want around.
mm,
But so I've not dealt with that in this, but I have seen a lot of it in the past in other areas of life. I do a fair amount of, or used to especially, do a fair amount of work with mental health charities. I used to be director of a mental health nonprofit. I took training as a suicide crisis counselor, and mental health is a very, very, very near and dear topic to me, not only for all the obvious traumatic reasons,
yeah.
but because my one of my best friends, there were four of us who were completely inseparable in high school. Um, and when we all went away to different colleges, he took his own life
Mm,
as a result of his depression. And when the rest of us got together, none of us knew that he was depressed. And as we kept talking, we discovered that all four of us had depression, just no one had ever felt comfortable saying anything. So we were left wondering, and like I don't carry this with me now because
mm,
it would be a completely unfair and unhealthy burden to carry. But at the time, we were all left wondering if we had spoken up and been more open, would he still be here?
yeah.
And so I dove into mental health charity work early on and became a big part of my life. And in doing that, that's where I first noticed the problem with labeling, because I would find people who, especially in like the PTSD and CPTSD, just trauma-based communities, they end up fighting through the stigma to be able to talk about it openly. But then once they are open and able to talk about it, I noticed that a lot of people seemed to plateau in their progress.
Mm,
And it was something that I struggled with too, because I I felt like it had become such a part of my identity that if I heal, if I get through it, I have to start over. And life on the other side of growth is scary. And I had to get really introspective on all that and get through it and then start to notice it in other people. And it became something that I talked about at mental health events and things like that. But yeah, they would unfairly hold themselves back because they had gotten so used to the community surrounding that identity.
mhm,
And then things moving into sexuality and the labels associated with that, like I always said, I don't like labels, but if you have to put one on me, it's going to be asexual, aromantic. Um, but I'm open to that changing. Just like I have always said, yeah, so far in my life, I've only been attracted to women. But if
mm,
a nice dude comes along and catches my eye, I won't be mad.
yeah.
But I've never had any attraction urges or anything like that. It's just in the event that whether it's due hormonal changes or brain changes, personality changes, or life experience, if I ever felt the need to branch out and be attracted to a person I didn't expect, I didn't want my preconceived notions about who I am to hold me back.
Mm.
So I tried to stay fluid and flexible and all of that. And yeah, I still very much identify as heterosexual, not so much asexual, and not so much aromantic anymore.
Yeah, it's quite the journey to go on, isn't it?
Yeah,
And I think there's that and we feel it in everybody feels it in different ways, that you're institutionalized to reach certain milestones by a certain age, while
yeah,
forgetting that those milestones were there because we all died at the age of 40. Whereas now we're only halfway, not even halfway through, and
yeah.
so we've still got a
God, I hope
whole
not.
lifetime to establish these things and do these things and experience these things. But there is that pressure
Yeah,
with the way
yeah,
that
there
you
really is.
are with your current partner, something that you have openly said that you've never felt before.
Mm.
Was that something? I kind of feel like I'm going to know the answer to this already, but
The
when
listeners might not.
true, but when you were young, and I asked this of most people, what did love look like to you? Because I think that we all do have an idea of what love or what we think a relationship is, or expectations as kids. What did that look like to you?
I didn't have
Especially as,
one.
yeah, by the way that you're talking about pretty
Yeah.
much your own self, like, conversion therapy, and
Yeah.
these kind of the shame around all of it. Just
Yeah.
like
Well,
you had parents, so your parents were together. So who were your kind of role models?
I didn't have any.
Yeah.
My mom and dad got divorced when I was 8. Haven't seen my
Mm,
dad since I was 10. We lived with my grandparents for a while, and they hated each other. Like,
right.
not even like sleeping in separate beds or separate rooms. She slept in a bedroom, he slept on the floor at the other end of the house. Like, it was constant arguing, bickering, screaming
Mm,
between them growing up. So I never had the chance to see a good relationship growing up, other than stuff that I would see on TV. But growing up in the 80s and 90s, most of the romantic comedies are wildly toxic and they're trying to glorify stalker behavior. So don't do that.
mm-hmm.
The only romantic comedy that I actually still love is Kate and Leopold, because he was respectful all the way through it.
Legit, never seen
It
it, but yeah.
it's shockingly good. Hugh Jackman. Yeah, yeah. Shockingly, I still adore that movie, even though it's
Yeah,
stupid. Um, but yeah, he's shown to be respectful of boundaries throughout the entire movie, and that is something that you so rarely got to see in romantic comedies at the time. They're getting
yeah,
better now, but um yeah, I had no idea what to expect, what to hope for. And honestly, I feel like I never did until
mm,
now.
yeah. So what does
And
it feel like now? Is there words for it?
she gives me a sense of peace and comfort and assurance that I've ever known. I
Mm,
um the fact that she's been able to unlock new sides of me that I never could have known were there,
mm,
and to make me feel comfortable enough to explore those. She so very quickly became the most important person in my life. And in the past, when I have tried dating or gotten close to someone, there was always apprehension with it.
mm,
Like, am I doing the right thing? Or one of the big things is, since I had been so wired for self-sacrifice through so much of my life, I had never let myself want anything. And I had found myself just chasing accomplishments because it was what should be done.
mm,
And never doing things because I wanted to. And with her, for the very first time in my life, I want things. I want to be with her. I actively choose every day to be with her.
yeah.
And she has given a new value to my life experience. I have always had dangerous hobbies. Like I
Mhm.
said, I race motorcycles, work with animals, and I've never been scared to death. It's never been a big deal. If I die, I die. Was probably the most uttered phrase in my life, other than "No, I'm not gay. Why?" But but uh, I had set out to break my personal speed record on my racing motorcycle, which I had made it to like 191 miles per hour before,
Mm,
and I was trying to pass 200 or like 300 kilometers per hour, depending on where people are listening to this. But um, I had planned on doing it after I got back from my first trip to the UK with her. And when I got back and went out for a ride on my bike, I realized I feel no compulsion to do this. I have nothing to prove, and I have someone worth staying alive for. So I don't want to needlessly risk my own life,
mm,
um, because my life is really good and I'm really happy in it and with it. And I don't want to make it so that she's the only reason I'm alive, because that's not
yeah.
healthy. But the fact that she has taught me so much about myself without even trying has
Mm,
been transformative and super cool. And I guess the short answer would have been no. There's no way to describe it. Um, Maybe there will be eventually, but I'm still very, very, very new to even being capable of feeling these things. And like, I feel bad for women that I've dated in the past, like ones that I just wasn't interested in, went on a date with, or was in a relationship with. Like, they weren't like, they weren't bad. It's
mm,
just I could I didn't know the capacity for feeling that I had until now. And now I realize, like a lot of those dates, yeah, purely platonic, should have completely stayed platonic. And to be fair, I'm a very platonic person. So we would go out on the date and it would just be like best friends hanging out and then like a high five at the end and then I'd go home. But uh I'm very aware that while navigating all of that, I probably did hurt people along the way because I didn't understand what I was doing and where I was coming from and the way that it would be perceived, especially. So I do feel a little bad talking about just how great I feel in my current relationship because I don't want them to feel like they've done anything.
Yeah.
I don't want them to think that I am downplaying the positive experiences they brought into my life or how much I do treasure their friendship or if I think they're completely gorgeous, just I'm not going to marry you.
Yeah.
And just so many other things. So that's probably been the hardest part because I am so proud to be with who I'm with now. I am so outrageously proud of all the things that I feel for her and the happiness she brings me and the growth that she's inspired. But that's the only little moment of trepidation because I don't want to accidentally be insulting to good people while talking
Yeah.
about how great my current partner is.
Yeah.
But she's so great, so they'll probably just have to get used to it because I'm not going to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. But then there's that thing about like a duality, isn't there? That like that you can be two things. It didn't work, but you don't have to be mean about it. It wasn't this. It really wasn't you. It was me. There's all these different things like cliches and things like that. But I totally get where you're coming from. I was a complete dick when I used to talk about my ex-girlfriends, and it's only when you grow and you understand your own part, because there's parts of me that I was absolutely just horrified and like, wow, I was not a nice person. But then making sure that I didn't fall into that I'm a bad person. No, I'm not. I'm actually a good person. I just, we can do mean things sometimes.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's quite a few people that are still not quite there yet with living in that duality of holding two things at once. You're either in or you're out. And I lived like that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I guess, I mean, I could probably sit and talk to you for hours on this, but is there
I mean, if people
any,
like it, we can do a round two. We can come
yeah,
back.
I feel like potentially for me, there's going to be some slight fear or something moving into allowing yourself these things. Has there been any kind of fear for you being with this person now and feeling these things that you've never felt before? And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. But has there also been potentially, maybe not the other shoe to drop, but something that's almost gone, oh, hang on a minute.
In the beginning, there was some trepidation, where I was wondering if I was just being needlessly optimistic about the feelings that I was developing. And I already had these really big plans for my time here in the US because I want to take part in the Dakar rally motorcycle race, one of the most dangerous races in the world, 1,200 miles across the desert. It's awesome, but I want to do that within 5 years. And I had planned on basically setting up my life here in the US to be in places that would allow me to train properly for that and like in desert environments with my motorcycles. And I had already put the beginnings of the wheels in motion to have that kind of thing set up. And then I end up falling for a woman who lives in the place with no deserts and 4,000 miles away. And in the beginning, like that was a lot to deal with because I had already made these plans and set my expectations for how things were going to go. And then suddenly the best wrench in the world was thrown into it. And I found myself way, way, way more interested in being with her than I could ever care about a motorcycle race. And she supports me doing the race. She says if I do it, she wants to come and cheer me on and all that. And I have no doubt that she would. But I'd have to I would probably just have her film the whole thing and just narrate because
Yes.
brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
She's but yeah, now at this point, I'm just really hoping that she and I do go the distance, um that we are together long enough to, have a proper future, and I will move to the UK eventually when the time comes for that. So I'm basically setting my life up now to be mobile, to
Mm.
be portable, which is why I'm getting out of live sports announcing like I usually do and moving into studio work, doing voiceover, audiobooks, things like that, just so I have freedom of location.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a big shift, and it was a little bit of nerves in the beginning, but not nearly enough to stop.
Mm-hmm.
It was just this is going to be really hard to figure out, but I'll do it. All right.
Yeah.
I just didn't expect to have to think this much right now.
How is it though with having, because this is in like this is quite the long distance. What's it
Yeah.
like having a long distance relationship?
Uh,
Especially as this is new
but
to you.
mm,
So normally when something's new, you want it all the time, you
oh
know?
God, and I do. I mean, like things were great for us from the start when we were talking from the very moment she opened her eyes until she went to sleep, and then I was still recording her a couple of nice voice messages to wake up to because I sleep less than she does.
Mm.
Uh, so she really never had to experience time awake where I wasn't there. But uh, yeah, it went great. And like that's where all of our initial bonding happened, and we have great conversations. And I mean, things go up and down depending on what's happening over there for her, what her mood is like, how stressed, how tired, etc. she is. So we do have a lot of ups and downs, and not every day is just as elated
Mm.
as some of the others. But we've gotten into a good rhythm where even the bad days don't feel scary
Mm.
because we know we're going to get through it. And yeah, I wish that I could be there more often. I wish that I could see her every day. I have never met someone that I absolutely cannot get enough of.
Mm.
And I miss her a lot, even when we do talk all day. And like we still do talk all day.
Mm.
And we still tell each other good morning and good night. And I still sleep less than her when I'm over here. So um yeah, it's hard just because I miss her. I miss seeing her, hugging her, being with her. I miss her cooking. She is a brilliant cook.
Bloody good
And
cook.
yeah, and I'm so glad that I got to cook for her too, and she liked it. And and then she had me cook it for her friends. And I'm very happy about that. I'm
That's a
very proud.
nah. There you go.
Well, because I recently became vegan because of her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of our relationship, and I had a lot of food allergies that made going vegan very intimidating. Like I'm not supposed to eat gluten. If I eat a tree nut, I will die. And a lot of the vegan protein alternatives are either gluten or nut based.
Mm.
And in the US, there's just heaps of misinformation and propaganda surrounding pushing people away from the vegan diet and making
Yeah.
it seem inaccessible or unrealistic. But she was very patient and kind and like taught me how in the beginning because I'd wanted to for a long time. It's just I thought I couldn't.
Mm.
And she taught me how, showed me some of her recipes, and and within a week I felt so much better. Like I had so much more energy. I dropped heaps of like water retention that I didn't know I was holding on to, and it made her very mad. She was like, I go to the gym every day and you eat one fucking vegetable and you have abs. What the you did? And it's like fair. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to, but okay. But yeah, so that was the first real vegan meal that I had ever cooked. And the fact that she liked it that much and then liked it enough to send pictures to her friends and have me cook it for them. Oh, I was elated. I felt so proud. Um, I miss the sleep and the rest that I get when I'm with her. Um, I miss so many things. And also I very literally hate where I am right now. This is the house. This is the room that I burned myself in.
Mm.
Like 6 feet away is where I kept the candle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of bad memories here. And and like I still react like I did as a child in this house. I am constantly walking around with a very timid posture because I'm just waiting to be yelled at. And here the nightmares are worse than anywhere else. And with her, I don't have any. And so the contrast between the two makes the missing all the worse. But I'll be back soon, and I will look forward to that every day until I get there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That really is. It's like there's giving that kind of hope that, you know, this is possible. This is possible.
Yeah,
I'm going to wrap
it
it up.
absolutely is. Okay.
I'm going to wrap it up because we could go on and this will end up being like the Joe Rogan length podcast. But I do give the option to people to ask a question back at me because I'm very aware that I've been grilling the other person. So is there anything you would like to ask me? Bearing in mind that we literally didn't really know each other until this moment. It's harder.
Yeah. Well, now I wish you would have told me that at the beginning so I could have been thinking about it as you said things throughout this.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
You sneaky.
Take your time. We'll edit out the pauses.
Yeah. Actually, so since we have such eerily similar experiences regarding not feeling love, affection, attraction, these kinds of things, and not really having like a healthy relationship to have in our life experience, based on what you know about yourself right now, do you have any idea what kind of partner you might be looking for?
No. And the reason why is because, to not make it such a closed question, the reason why is because I've always been in relationships that were easy, because they were easy to be in and easy to manipulate and understand, like, what do they need to feel wanted? Easy. Do that. That's fine. You know, obviously that facade slips and stuff, and you come across as selfish and what have you, but I couldn't tell you what I need or what I'm looking for. Obviously, what I need is someone that will meet me halfway and, you know, will show me them as much as I can show myself. But that kind of personality, who that is, I have no idea, which is in a way a little bit like, how do you look for someone you don't know you're looking for?
Yeah.
So how do you know? People have an idea on my behalf. Someone has once said that I need someone that will take charge and all that kind of stuff. Other people are, you know, we joke about personality tests being done to make sure that they're above board, mental health wise. But I think everybody has a potential idea of who that person should be. But I don't know what they look like. I have no idea, which I sometimes feel like makes this harder. And I recently went speed dating, and someone, not that someone caught my eye physically, but there was something about them that I was like, I feel like I know you already, like wherever you come from, how have I met you before? But there was no one that sparked something in me, no one that was like, oh, who are you? Now, I don't know if that's me setting an expectation that this person's just going to be like come like literally crashing into my life or not, or if it's going to be a slow burn, but I don't know what I'm looking for, which feels like it's going to be harder.
Yeah.
Because
it really can. It can and does feel that way, because I was the exact same. People are like, oh, what's your type? I don't know. Like I always just dumbed it down to say, I just trust that I'll figure it out when I see them. Like I just know if I feel attraction at the time. Usually I don't, but if I see it, I'll know. And I just had to hope that I would figure it out. And luckily I did. But yeah, those times of uncertainty where, you know, like the kind of relationship you would like, but not the type of person that would be healthy to have it with.
Mm.
And take anyone else's advice, and also mine, to be very clear, with a grain of salt,
Mm.
because one of my personal pet peeves is when people assume to know more about you, your history, your mental state than you do, and they will give advice and suggestions from their point of probably misunderstanding.
Mm.
And so if someone says you need a person like this, ponder it, consider it, maybe they're right, but nothing in life, and especially not in relationships, is going to be an absolute for everyone. So
Hmm.
yeah, I just hope you find someone you click with, because you're a really rad person, and I would love to see that for you. And then, I can
Yeah.
come back on and we can compare experiences. Like, how are you feeling now that you?
Is this what you
Oh
felt? Is this what you meant? Oh my
yeah,
God. Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
It's
I look
there.
forward to that day.
There is something scary that I have to say, like, there is something scary about getting to that point and having this other side of me come out that people don't know.
Mhm.
There is something, because everybody knows me as a certain way, and because the people know me as this person that doesn't hug people. And actually I do hug people. I'm actually a very affectionate person. But when someone makes it like a big thing about it, I'm like, we're not doing that then. My body is very much like an indicator of how, if I'm wary of someone, my body reacts first by not
Mhm.
giving that space.
Yeah.
And so I won't hug someone, and my brain hasn't even caught up yet. But I'm actually a very physically affectionate person. And there's a part of me that's like, are the people in my life actually ready to see that side of me? Because I don't even know really what that side of me looks like.
Yeah. Like, I used to I always said I want people to just assume I am a Ken doll. I am just smooth as plastic downstairs. There's nothing
Hmm.
there. You do not need to know that I have genitals. Don't you dare be thinking about them. Um, so like I would avoid talking about like any sexual experience I had ever had.
Yep.
Uh, which is already like super not normal for a heterosexual dude. Like when other guys are having locker room talk, I'm just off to the side, like, yeah, well, I watched DuckTales a lot growing up, so
Mm.
that's
Oh,
all you
another
need to know.
tick. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. But
Mm.
but now that I'm with someone where I am just so proud of every facet of our relationship, I feel no shame in giving up my title of asexual.
Mm.
And I really do think that's going to end up being your experience as well, in that when you do find a healthy relationship that gives you that kind of safety and comfort, you're just going to feel that same sense of safety and comfort as you step into the person that you finally get to be, because
Mm.
you have um I don't think a lot of your stuff is as locked away as mine was.
Mm.
You just haven't had the chance
Yeah.
to really utilize it. Um but I really think that you, based on the hour and a half that I've known you, and I could definitely see you stepping into it well and confidently. And you've already built such a great group of understanding friends around you that even if it does make them uncomfortable to see it in the beginning, they will be happy enough for you to
Mm.
work through whatever weirdness they feel and be like, oh no, no, that is a genuinely happy person, and I love this for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Dustin, I'm incredibly pleasantly surprised this conversation has been what it has been. I didn't have any
Yeah.
expectations. However, I didn't expect to relate to someone so much, and especially a guy, a straight guy from America. So I'm hugely appreciative. I thank you so much for opening up and having this conversation with me. And I can't wait to see you guys at the end of the month.
Yeah, and yeah, it's been my absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for having me. This has been such a genuine pleasure and an honor. Like I said before we started recording, like this clearly means so much to you, and you talk about such important topics, and and you disseminate information in a very clear and understandable way. And your interview style works so well And I know your listeners have to love it. And also I love the little clips you post on Instagram and TikTok. Like, oh, you were good at the teaser trailer. Like, it's a skill. Well done. So I have been thrilled to be a part of it. I'm really excited that we got to bond unexpectedly a little more through
Yes.
this. And
Yeah.
now when I get back, I will be extra excited to see you and we can hang out like real proper friends as opposed to we made eye contact yesterday. Hey.
Yes.
It's kind of the end of it.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
This time we're buying you breakfast.
Oh
Deal?
my God. Yeah, it'll totally be a thing.
Okay. Okay. Done
I'm just
deal.